Ball back. All right, let's see. I'm just trying to do one more task and then I'm actually going to engage a little bit. I want to read this article on the agreement. Let's take it down just for now. Keep it on that. Let's see. Ah, no. Let's see if this envelope works. Let's go, baby. Push it, push it, push it. I'm yelling at my printer. Push it, push it. I think it worked perfectly. Let's check this out. I'm actually interested in this. Um, U.S. and Iran signal initial deal to end war, ease sanctions, open strait as nuclear talks continue. President Trump signed a deal with Iran on Wednesday that calls for Tehran to dilute its stockpile of highly enriched uranium, waives U.S.-backed sanctions on the country, immediately allowing Iran to sell its oil freely in a major concession from Washington, according to details released by both countries. Okay. The initial deal to end the war takes immediate effect after leaders from both countries signed it. This is important because um, I have seen multiple reports that leaders from both countries have signed it. Um, it's being confirmed by people on both sides. I think there's been a thing during this situation where um, it's mainly the U.S. will report something and then Iran will be like, "Well, that's not happening," and so there'd be this disconnect. There'd be this miscommunication between the two sides. So I started to take everything with a grain of salt. Um, Waited to see, well, have both sides confirmed it? And it seems like um, this agreement has been confirmed by both sides and by both presidents. The agreement calls for a permanent end to hostilities and starts a 60-day negotiating clock to reach a final deal on the future of Iran's nuclear program. Though Trump left the door open to resume attacks, it appears to offer Iran several benefits up front while extracting little in return. That's all I've been hearing a lot about the benefits. Let's see. The deal has been shrouded in secrecy and confusion for days. U.S. officials refuse to disclose the terms even after saying Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. Interesting how they say after saying Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, not Trump and J.D. Vance. Like they need to give the title the respect to one person, and there's this like it's interesting. There's this like habit to just like not call Trump President Trump or President Donald Trump. It's really interesting. Uh, Signed a physical copy Wednesday while dining with French President Emmanuel Macron at Versailles, the palace where many historic agreements have been signed over the centuries, ending wars or territorial disputes. Um, the White House had planned a signing ceremony on Friday in Switzerland, but its fate is now uncertain, with conflicting information from the U.S., Iran, and Pakistan. It's signed, Trump said after he left the dinner at Versailles, which followed his trip to the Group of Seven summit in France. In a video posted online by White House aide, Trump was seated at a table next to Macron, signing a paper copy of the agreement. This was not easy, Trump says. In Tehran, a stone-faced president signed the deal. Hmm. Something about I don't know how. Somehow I can zoom in and I don't know how to. But okay, here's the agreement. I guess Iran's president signing the agreement that has Trump's signature on it. Text of the agreement still has not been formally released by the Americans. U.S. officials dictated draft language to journalists after days of secrecy. Uh, Much of the agreement would restore the status quo, ending hostilities, restarting talks over the nuclear program, reopening the Strait of Hormuz. The deal also, this is what's interesting. The deal also affirms a commitment to Lebanon's territorial integrity in the face of Israel's invasion. That is one of the most delicate parts, right? Iran has said Israel must withdraw. Um, Interesting. Major concessions have been offered to Iran. I mean, this article's so long. Just get to the meat of it. Some concessions include lifting of full sanctions and the release of frozen assets would happen gradually and be linked to progress in the nuclear talks, according to Pakistani officials. The Islamic Republic's oil export revenues were more than 46 billion. Its main buyer of oil, China, is believed to have bought at below market price because of its willingness to ignore the sanctions. Granting oil waivers at the start of the 60-day talks strips the U.S. of a major point of leverage. Opens the door to ending all sanctions. Though it says the schedule for that will be worked out later, still that far surpasses the 2015 deal, which only lifted some sanctions in exchange for Iran drastically reducing its enrichment and stockpile of uranium. The accord would also provide Iran with at least 300 billion to rebuild, an extraordinary figure and another major benefit for Iran. The money also appears dependent on the progress of further negotiations. Vance has said Gulf Arab nations would invest that amount, but Gulf countries would likely be reluctant to help Iran after Iranian attacks in the war destroyed oil facilities and other sites in their territory. Trump reiterated Wednesday that the U.S. would not contribute and said it was up to other countries if they wanted to invest. Hmm. I mean, we'll see. What else can I say? We'll see. This is an agreement to end the war. That means U.S. stop bombing Iran, Iran stop bombing Israel, and U.S. bases and other countries. I guess this is an agreement to end all of that stuff, which is a good thing. Um, Trump's doing that classic thing that they did with the tariffs and everybody agreeing to invest like 500 billion or 300 billion or those agreements that he was coming to with Japan, Korea, the EU, and those were kind of like it sounds like that's what this 300 billion is as well, which is more so of a promise to invest. It's not anything concrete. It's an aspiration more than anything. And so, and then it said at the end there that Trump said, like, he's reiterating the U.S. will not contribute. It's up to the other countries if they want to invest. I mean, that I don't know what that means. So you'd hope that, or you'd think that the sanctions were a big part. So we're going to lift the sanctions fully, and you guys have to dilute your stockpile of uranium. That's pretty much like what the trade off is. Um, remove sanctions, no more uranium, or modify your uranium. Okay, I guess if that's what's everyone wanted, you'd think, I don't know, you'd think like this was not that appropriate. This was not an appropriate way of going about that, causing all this damage and all this bloodshed to get Iran to, I guess if that's what you deem is the ultimate goal. Yeah, I mean, if ultimately like what you want is for Iran not to have that, if that's the experience that they have to have to agree to terms to meaningfully dilute their stockpile, then um, I don't know. Do you maybe you call it a success if you're the U.S.? But that is the interesting point now. What's the deal with the with Israel and Lebanon? We'll see. this away. Hmm. Look at this. I remember getting an alert earlier in the night, like an alert that this incident occurred. So interesting that this would get like some sort of like live, some sort of like broad coverage. Huh. Oh no. This is horrible. So here's something that's interesting. Immediately when I look at this, it's a horrible incident, of course. It sounds like it's an accident. It reads like this is some sort of accident. Um, it doesn't immediately seem like there's some sort of criminal aspect or some sort of malicious aspect to this. Uh, a San Diego police vehicle struck a University of San Diego student near the college campus. The student later died. The crash happened around 1:30 a.m. in an area with student housing. The officer was traveling westbound downhill. When he felt an impact, the officer stopped to investigate. A man in his 20s was in the roadway. Medics were called. The person was pronounced dead. School confirmed it's a student. Oh my god. It's unclear at this time why the person entered the roadway. When asked if it appeared that the man had already been struck, the man is told, wow. I mean, really, whatever the reason was. So, when they say it's unclear why the person entered the roadway, it seems like maybe it was just like literally in the middle of the roadway somewhere that there wasn't a crosswalk. And in California, that doesn't mean that the family could not sue that officer. Um, if if that officer is found to be responsible, even 1%, then um, that's enough to get an order requiring them to pay 1% of all the damages. If the if you can prove that that officer was at least 10%, then that's 10% responsibility on that officer. Um, and ways that you can, even if the kid was in the middle of the road when he shouldn't have been, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be you shouldn't be as diligent as possible, that you shouldn't still exercise due caution as the driver. Um, there's an idea that even if somebody is doing something wrong, it's still your responsibility to exercise due caution. What would exercising due caution have been for that officer? It would have been keeping his eyes on the road, seeing if there was any obstructions on the road, um, such as a person on the road unexpectedly, or maybe even um, some sort of hazard on the road, right? Like there could be a huge pothole. There could have been um, a big unexpected tree branch. There could have been something that the officer would have to have responded to. Um, and likely, if the officer's eyes were on the road as they should have been, then you should see uh, all obstacles. You should anticipate all obstacles and you should avoid them, right? That's one argument. And if this is somewhere near student housing, it's important to know what was the speed limit. I mean, if it's like a 15, 20, 25 mile per hour speed limit, then that plus requirement to exercise due caution, meaning keeping your eyes on the road. And if you're traveling 20, 25 miles an hour, then what else would due caution entail? Would it also entail seeing whatever you can reasonably see just off the road? Probably. It probably would, especially if you're traveling slowly enough to where you can just like comfortably scan left, right, left, right. And if that's the case, then I think, yeah, of course the officer probably didn't exercise due caution. The officer was probably on his phone. You know, you go on your phone, you kind of know where you're traveling, you kind of have that in the back of your head mentally. Um, you're, you're driving the car, you're kind of there somewhere in your head. You kind of even justify it probably sometimes as a skill. A skill. Look how good I am at driving. You think to yourself while you're on your phone on your fourth YouTube reel. And then you feel an impact. And that's because your eyes weren't glued to the road, which really, 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 even though so many people don't do it, that is what we should be doing. And we all take the risk that when we're not doing that, somebody may get injured. And that officer took that risk, and that officer killed the student, unfortunately. And that would be my argument. Sometimes when I'm thinking about situations like this, you kind of lock into like a closing argument. But that's essentially what these fact patterns sort of invoke or provoke, uh, especially in an attorney. I'm immediately thinking like, where does liability fall? What are the legal rights of people involved here? What is legal liability looking like? What's criminal liability looking like? I think in terms of criminal liability, if the officer wasn't, if there's no evidence that the officer was acting recklessly, um, and if there's no evidence that the officer was intoxicated or something like that, then I don't think there's going to be any sort of criminal charges brought against this officer. But a civil case, probably, it's probably appropriate. It's probably appropriate for the family to um, find representation and have that sort of part of the overall estate planning, estate handling right now. Get representation to investigate and make a claim. Who was it? San Diego police? Yeah, make a claim against the city, or make a claim with the city, um, requesting payment under their insurance policy for wrongful death of this student. So sad.